Your desire to be liked is exactly why you're struggling to manifest. Okay, now let's get straight to the point. First of all, you have to realize that what you're doing when you're manifesting something is basically just going from one frequency to another, from one identity to another, from one state of consciousness to another. Okay, and there's something that you have to realize before I even begin to explain this, and that is consciousness is contagious. The people that you're around literally affect the type of person that you are. Okay, now the first thing that I'm going to explain is social contracts. Now, what a social contract is simply just a contract that keeps you within your old frequency purely for the sake of socialism, for the ability to socialize, for the ability to be within a group. Okay. Now, there are three different levels within a social contract, or three different realms, I guess you could say. Within a social contract, you have the realm of evolutionary psychology. Now, evolutionary psychology is simply just the studying of the primal part of the brain, the part of the brain that keeps you alive, that kept us alive. All right. Now, think about it this way. When we were back in tribes, so not back in tribes, when we were in tribes, right, and we needed to survive, and I guess the only things that we knew in regards to technology was how to make huts and, make a campfire, etc. In order for you to survive, the one key that you needed was a tribe. You needed a group of people. You needed to be with a group of people. And if you weren't with a group of people, that was an indication of death to the primal part of your brain. Now, if you extrapolate that to the modern world, it is as simple as you leaving a group, a social group, whether that group is your family, your friends, or an organization. You leaving that societal group coincides with death in your primal brain. Okay, now moving on to the realm of behavioral psychology. Behavioral psychology is the second realm of the social contract. Behavioral psychology, right, is simply just how you were conditioned in order for you to integrate into society and for you to properly integrate within your family and your social groups and your friend groups, etc. Right? Now, when you were a baby or a toddler, when you broke that vase or you broke that plate or you painted all over the walls or you peed in the wrong place, your parents met you with disapproval, right? They met you with disappointment. They shouted at you, insulted you, maybe spanked you, things of that nature, right? In order to discipline you, in order to let you know that you shouldn't be doing that, in order to let you know that that is not okay. This is what perpetuated, becoming a respectful person, a polite person, someone who has sense, someone who actually knows how to be a decent human being. Okay. Now, due to this conditioning, due to behavioral psychology, right, you became a person who naturally seeks approval, naturally seeks validation from those around you. Okay. And because you seek that approval and that validation, that then keeps you in tune with that old frequency that you're trying to escape. Because if you think about it this way, right, within societal groups, we like the people that we're around. And one of the main reasons as to why we like the people that we're around is because we're able to relate to them. Now, I'm going to stop there and then go into the final realm of social contracts, so then you can understand what it is that I'm fully, I guess, encapsulating here. Energetic energy, the realm of entities, right? So think about it this way. Every single perception, belief, preconceived notion is an entity, right? And these entities have you. You are a host of this entity, okay? You don't have your beliefs have you. And this entity gains more energy and more power from whatever emotions you feel in alignment, in alignment with that specific belief or notion. Now, for example, actually, let me say a quick example. You subscribing to the notion that money is very difficult to come by. Whenever you feel negative emotions in regards to that notion, that gives the entity its energy, the energy that it wants. Now, this energy seeks to do two things. One, gain more of that energy, and two, maintain that energy. And how it does that is by, one, perpetuating events into your life that will cause you to feel emotions in alignment with that notion. Okay. And the second thing it will do is, if it catches you trying to leave that notion or discard that notion in order to adopt a new one, it will use the host that it already has to bring you back within that notion. This is why I mentioned relatability. Nobody likes people that they can't relate to. Think about it this way, okay? I'm going to use the realm of money as a simple use case. Say you make 1,000 a month, right? And then your friend or someone you know, or a stranger you've just come to sit next to and talk to at your workplace, or I don't know why you're putting fuel in your car and you're waiting for it to fill up, you decided to talk to this person. And then you make, let's say, minimum wage. I'm not sure how much that is monthly. Okay, let me just use a small monthly amount. You make 500 a month, okay? And then the person next to you, right, the person that you're conversating with makes 10,000 a month. Now, the person next to you that makes 10,000 a month, right, they say something along the lines of, oh, I need to get to 20k a month so that I can do this and so that I can do that. And then you're thinking, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He's making 10,000 a month. That's 120 a year if you forget about tax, all right? Like what the fuck is wrong with this nigga? He's making so much money. He doesn't have to worry about his needs. And because you cannot relate to this person, you then deem what they've said as flexing, and also you begin to be like, nah, fuck this guy. Why is he flexing on me? Why is he doing this shit? Why is he being a weirdo? Why is he money, like financial situation? Why is he not keeping that to himself? Etc, etc. And then that ties into relatability. Because you can't relate with the person, you don't like the person as much. Not to say that you hate them because you can't relate to them, but that person isn't in alignment with you. It's a completely different frequency, it's a completely different identity. Okay, now chances are you and this person are subscribed to to two different notions that are the exact opposite of each other. Chances are, because you are the person making, I think I said 500 a month, you're the person making 500 a month, you are subscribed to the notion that money is very difficult to come by and that money is a use case for surviving. Now, the person on the other side, the stranger who makes 10,000 a month, who you're having a conversation with, he is subscribed to the notion that money is easy to come by and money is a tool to use for living. Now, you may be confused here and be thinking, Guapo, what the fuck are you talking about? Aren't living and surviving the same thing? They're not. Surviving is thinking only in regards to your needs. It's thinking, oh, I need to pay my bills. It's thinking, oh, I need to pay for grocery shopping. I need to pay for the food that I need to eat. It's thinking that I need to pay for my kids, just things along the realm of needs. Whereas living is thinking, all right, cool, let me get to this next monthly goal so that I can, have a yacht party this month or next year or whatever. Let me get to this monthly goal so that I can go on holiday, etc, etc, etc. You get what I mean, right? Living and surviving are two different things. They have two distortions there, okay? The first distortion, or the first difference, is their perception of money. Perception, and then their belief in regards to money, their beliefs in regards to money. Perceptions and beliefs. Now, your frequency or identity or your state of consciousness, there are many different phrases to describe the same thing, have 7 different keys: your beliefs, your perceptions, your attention/focus, your emotionally charged thoughts, your expectations, your reactions, and then finally, your conviction. Now, what are 2 words there within that list that I've also just mentioned like literally 30 seconds ago? Beliefs and perceptions. And because those 2 people have those differences in their beliefs and their perceptions, right? They're living 2 completely different realities. They're living in 2 completely different worlds. They're not playing the same game. They are not playing the same game. One of them is playing PES, the other one's playing FIFA. Now, if you play FIFA, you're going to get the comparison there anyway. Or if you play sports games, you're going to get the comparison there. But the point is that because they live in completely 2 different worlds, they cannot relate to one another. And due to that inability to relate, the energetic being uses that to, I guess, keep its host when the host tries to leave that notion. When that person, right, let's switch it now, let's change it. Let's say both of them make 1,000 a month, okay? And one of them is trying to leave that notion. One of them is trying to get to the notion of making 10,000 a month, okay? Or 5,000 a month, okay? What's going to happen is they're going to say something which is in accordance with that new notional belief or perception they're trying to adopt. And then the other person who is still within the frequency of just 1,000 a month, they think it's them, right, that's saying this, but really is the entity using the negative emotions such as the anxiety and the frustration that the person is withholding in regards to the notion, right? And due to the fact that they're holding those emotions, they're going to then say, what the fuck are you talking about? When that person who is trying to leave that notion begins to say something which isn't in alignment with the old notion that they're trying to leave. For example, the person who is trying to get to 5,000 a month says, you know what, I think money, there's actually a lot of it around. I think money can actually be an easy thing to come by. I don't think money actually equates to how hard you work. And then the person on the left is going to be thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean money's easy to come by? You only make 1,000 a month. How dare you try and get above that level? How dare you think, oh, what, money's easy to come by? Bro, money's so difficult, bro. Do you not see all the poor people in the world? Do you not see how difficult it is to come by? And then it begins. And then it starts. First, within the realm of evolutionary psychology, the person starts to think. The primal brain within the person trying to change their identity, trying to change their frequency, begins to think, oh shit, I may have bugged here. Oh shit, I'm doing something that is going to make me leave this tribe. I'm thinking something or saying something that isn't in alignment within the tribe that I'm already in, and leaving the tribe to the primal part of his brain means death. So then the fear begins to creep in, the anxiety begins to creep in, and then what perpetuates even more fear and anxiety is the behavioral psychology, because you begin to think, oh shit, that is bringing disapproval upon me. It's bringing a lack of validation. That person is going to stop liking me. That person is going to start hating me. And then finally, within the realm of energy, the entity smiling, grinning at the teeth, because it knows that its current host is stopping one of its hosts that is trying to leave from leaving. And then even in the case where you get past all of that, like I said, it also perpetuates events into a reality, so you don't even leave that notion if using other hosts doesn't work. So what it will do is it will cause for circumstances to happen which are going to make you feel negative emotions, and then which are going to make you think in alignment with that notion, which then brings you back to that old frequency, because you fail to realize that due to the illusion of polarity, you think that you are separate from your world. You think you are separate from the physical world, but the truth is you and your physical world are one. Your physical world is only a reflection of you. It is only an expression of what is already internal within you. And because you are failing to realize that, and failing to realize that it's just the entity's attempts to get you back into that old frequency, you're then like, oh shit, maybe I'm tweaking. Let me actually go back. Let me start being humble. Let me start thinking those thoughts again. And then You go back to what you're comfortable with, because what the entity will do is it will bring those circumstances into your life, and then it will also project its fear that it has of you leaving onto you with those circumstances. And because it all multiplies, and then because when you begin to feel fearful, right, when you begin to feel anxious, what happens is the part of your brain, right, that governs your awareness begins to close down. It begins to shut down. Your self-awareness levels begin to decrease, because the primal part of your brain is, I guess, the strongest part of your brain, because it was the first part of your brain that was developed in order for you to survive back when we lived in tribes, and there weren't houses or cities, or like there were dangerous animals everywhere that could kill you, etc. Because that was the first part of your brain to be developed, when it springs up those negative emotions, and when that cortisol starts to rise, that awareness part shuts down. It shuts down completely, or almost completely, seemingly completely. You are no longer relaxed. You're at the highest levels of frustration, anxiety, disappointment, anger, all of those negative emotions. You're at that highest level, and then you come crashing back down right to that old frequency that you were trying to leave. And you're like, oh shit, I'm back here again. Now, one thing that you have to realize, right, is you're going to have to, I guess, disassociate or break free within every single realm. In regards to evolutionary psychology and behavioral psychology, right? One thing you're going to have to realize is you cannot depend on the approval of other people. Okay, you're going to have to realize that in order for you to get to that new level, that new frequency, you're going to have to detach from the approval of other people, of the people that aren't in alignment with that new frequency, aren't in alignment with that new identity. You're going to have to stop caring about what they think. And an easy way for you to stop caring about what they think is to simply realize that if you living your desired life, you're living in your desired reality, finally being happy makes that person feel envious or makes that person hate you, then ask yourself, is that person really friends with you, or associating with you, or talking to you, or liking you because they like you, or because they adore you or have love for you, or are they just doing it because they can relate to you, and you guys can trauma dump on each other and just do nothing about it together? That is a question that you have to ask yourself, because if you begin to live your desired life and they begin to hate you, ask yourself if that person ever really loved you. That's all it really takes. And then you begin to realize that shit, maybe they didn't, and then it's just a matter of moving on. And this isn't to say that I guess you're going to be extremely lonely or alone, because the truth is, when you transfer to that realm of, I guess, a higher frequency, or I don't want to say higher frequency, of a different frequency, because if I say higher frequency, people are going to misconstrue it and then think that I'm talking about being high vibrational all the time, being happy all the time. But the truth is, in reality, nothing is ever not moving. You're always going to be going from a state to another. You're never going to always be happy. You're never going to always feel abundance. You're never going to always feel poor. You're never going to always feel wealthy. You're never always going to feel one thing, okay? Because due to the law of rhythm, you are constantly shifting between two opposing sides in everything, okay? Now, without going off too much of a tangent there, back to the main point, which is you're going to have to detach from the approval of the people around you, because the entity will use your need for approval to bring you back. And then what you're also going to have to do is detach from the illusional polarity. Now, like I already said before, the illusional polarity is simply the notion that you are separate from your physical reality. It's simply the notion that the spiritual plane and the mental plane are separate from the physical plane, and the physical plane has nothing to do with them. The notion that your mind does not affect your reality at all. But the truth is, your mind is what perpetuates it, okay? Because the spiritual plane and the mental plane are the planes of cause, and the physical plane is the plane of effect. Now, what to do when, the entity perpetuates an event or a circumstance in your life which isn't in alignment with the desired reality that you want to have, or the desired frequency that you want to have, which would then perpetuate the desired reality? Simple. Relax. Because in order for you to get from a state of negativity to positivity, first you must reach neutrality. And how you reach neutrality is simply by being relaxed. A still mind is much better than a chaotic one, because a chaotic one has no sense of self-awareness. But a still mind has the ability to be self-aware and the ability to shift from one state to the other. Now, how you can relax is by simply laying down, for example, like laying down on that bed behind me and just relaxing. Close your eyes and just relax. You don't have to breathe in any sort of way. You don't have to lie down in any sort of way. You don't have to sit. You don't have to sit straight. You don't have to. What else do they do? You don't have to sit cross-legged. You don't have to do none of that stuff. Okay, all of that is simply just an extensive amount of focus on the external, which is not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to focus on the internal. So sit down or lay down and relax. And as you sat down and laid down and relaxed, what you're going to do is what I like to call the 3 R's. You are first going to review the circumstance that the entity perpetuated in your life, which isn't in alignment with your desired frequency, which perpetuates your desired reality. And then you're going to reframe it, and then you're going to recreate it. Because the truth is, in regards to your subconscious mind, it cannot distinguish between imagination and reality, and it has no concept of a past or a future. And it only speaks the language of emotion. So therefore, the 3 R's: review, reframe, recreate. How you're going to review it, I already told you. Relax, sit down, lay down, and just remember. Remember the memory, remember the event, the circumstance. Let all of the negative emotions well up, because the key with emotion is to feel it. Applying resistance to negative emotions only perpetuates them even more. So feel the emotion completely, because the reason why the only reason why the emotion is negative is simply because of the label that you've applied upon the emotion. So you simply just have to change the label, and how you can change the label is by simply applying neutral attention to it. There are 3 different types of attention. There is, like I said, neutral attention, negative attention, which is attention in regards to fearing something or something making you anxious, and then positive attention in regards to something that you desire. Okay? Neutral attention brings it down on the scale, or up on the scale, I guess, from a state of negativity to neutrality. And by applying that neutral attention to it, also neutral attention is simply just observing. It is simply having no attachments to it, no dislikes, no likes, just observing with a neutral stance. So what you're going to do is relax, remember, and then while you are remembering it, just observe. I'm not saying don't feel negative emotions or don't have negative thoughts, because you've also got to realize that you are not your mind. Your mind just intakes thoughts according to whatever frequency it is that you're channeled into. Okay, think of it like a radio. Whatever frequency you select determines what type of music you get. If you select the radio channel which gives you hip hop, you get hip hop. If you select the radio channel which gives you rock music, you get rock music. If you select the radio channel which gives you lo-fi, you get lo-fi. Okay, just think of it like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to relax and just think all the negative thoughts that well up during the event within your imagination, and then once you do that, you're going to obviously feel the negative emotion, let it be felt, and then reach that state of neutrality. Once you have reached that state of neutrality, you then shift to positivity. But once you have reached that state of neutrality, you've reframed it. And because you reframed it, you can then shift to the recreation. So, like I said, it's kind of self-explanatory, really, what you do then. Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between imagination and reality. So you recreate it. Instead of the scene being something which you don't like, make the scene something which you would have loved. Okay? In this case, it could be something as simple as... Wow, sorry, I just realized there were 2 examples that were amazing in regards to social contracts. And you know what, I'm just gonna say them, you know, before I get to the final juicy part. You know, I'm just gonna edge you a bit more, just a little bit. So the 2 examples I wanted to mention in the realm of social contracts was also, say there's 2 people, right? One of them, actually, you know what? Say there's 2 people, right? Both of them have the same notion that all girls are shit. All girls are trash. You cannot trust girls, etc., etc. Right? There's 2 niggas thinking that all girls are trash. Both of their girls cheated on them, or whatever. And one of them is trying to leave that notion and start trying to think that there are good women out there. Not all girls are trash. And he's going to start to think that. And then broski number 1 is going to perpetuate the notion in regards to girls being trash onto him, is going to project that onto him, so he stays back within that frequency. And how he's going to do that is, now, if you're one of them and them, you've definitely been hit with this before, right? Or even if, bro, it doesn't even matter what country you're from, you've probably been hit with this before, right? Say for example, you're talking to a girl, yeah, and then, like, someone says something that happened with them and their relationship, and then, you know, they're trying to project on you, and then you say, nah, not my girl. You say, nah, not my girl, and then they just start smirking and they start thinking, what, not your girl, yeah? Not your girl? Are you sure about that, broski? Are you sure about that? Because, bro, man's been hearing something, and then it begins to, yeah, they begin to project that onto you, and then it begins to, you know, it can start to get a little dark, you know, you'll start to feel like you're a fucking idiot, the way that they're making fun of you or whatever, etc. And that's one way it can be projected. I just needed to say that example. The second one, I even forgot what it was, but just the fact that I got that example out of the way, I'm satisfied. Now, back to, you know, the practicalities and, you know, the practical actions that can be taken. Is practicality even a word? I'm not sure, but anyways. Recreating the scene, right? Once you've reached that state of neutrality and you're recreating the scene to shift to a state of positivity, you want to loop it. You want to loop it and keep the scene short and sweet. Short, simple, and sweet. 3 S's. You want the scene to utilize at least 2 or 3 of your physical senses. This could be touch, sight, and then obviously seeing, because, you know, using your imagination. Now, you're going to keep looping the scene until you no longer feel any emotion anymore. You don't want to keep looping it after you don't feel emotion, because then you can start to, you know, allow for the possibility of doubt to creep in, because you're going to be feeling like you're forcing it, and that's not what we want. Okay. And then, you know, that's a simple way to combat your old frequency trying to, I guess, perpetuate negative experiences onto you, by simply reviewing, reframing, and then recreating those experiences. So to, I guess, sum it all up, really, you just have to realize that in order for you to go from one frequency to another, you're going to have to detach from the approval you get from those people in alignment with the old frequency. And you're going to have to detach, or I guess confront, or run into, or face that fear that your primal brain begins to feel because it associates leaving that tribe with death. You're going to have to run straight towards it. And that's really it, because now it's easier for you to manifest what you wanted to manifest. You're no longer in line with that old frequency. Now you can easily shift to the new frequency because you know what's been holding you back. And yeah, that is really all for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.